everyone. I would like to welcome both our in-person audience and virtual audience to track 4, Translating Data into Actionable Insights. I'm Lakshmi Randall from Informatica. I'm the track producer and moderator for this session. Our session this morning is Successful Transformation of HSB's Data and Analytics Capabilities. HSB embarked on a data transformation journey to modernize their data ecosystems. As part of this initiative, they created an enterprise information management framework to connect the data lifecycle from acquisition to consumption. This session will provide insights on how they leveraged this EIM framework to deliver actionable insights and enable multiple business use cases while optimizing cost and enabling shared resources across the organization. A few housekeeping details for you. This session is being recorded and it will be available to you as part of the Symposium proceedings with your registration. For our virtual audience, please enter your questions leveraging the Hua app Q&A tab. There will be Q&A at the end of the session. For our in-person audience, please raise your hand and I will bring the microphone over to you. So our speakers for this session are Dimodugno, Chief Data Officer of HSB, and we have Asif Syed, VP Data Strategy at HSB. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I wanted to start off with a brief history lesson just so that you understand what HSB is and why we've got a digital steam locomotive as our marketing banner there. So HSB started out almost 160 years ago. The history lesson here is that Robert E. Lee surrendered to the Union troops at the beginning of April of '65. Abraham Lincoln was shot a week later, and then 2 weeks after that, the largest maritime disaster in America happened. And not many people know about that because of the 2 previous historical events that happened in the same month. But what happened was the USS Sultana was actually a steamboat that operated on the Mississippi. And outside of Tennessee, about 2 weeks after Lincoln's assassination, it had 4 boilers on it, 4 steam boilers on it. 3 of them exploded. And unfortunately, the boat was populated. They were bringing POWs from the Confederate POW camps back north, and so there were over 2,700 soldiers, primarily on this boat, that was equipped to handle about 350 people. So with that explosions and with that amount of people on board, over 1,700 people died in that event. What that did is it equated to a couple of engineers in the Hartford area coming together to say, you know what, this shouldn't happen. These boilers need to be inspected. These boilers need to be inspected such that the fact that we can inspect them well enough that we believe we could add insurance to ensure that they do not explode. And so that was the birth of Hartford Steam Boiler, and that's what HSB stands for. Now, mind you, within the last couple of years, we realized we're selling a lot of cyber insurance. Not a lot of people are going to come to a locomotive steam boiler company looking for cyber insurance. So we went ahead and we changed our motif just recently, and so that's where we are today. Hartford Steam Boiler, or actually HSB now, is a division of Munich Re. We were purchased by them a number of years ago. And what we specialize in is in rider and equipment breakdown insurance. We've partnered with over 300 of the largest carriers in the U.S., and we produce equipment breakdown, inspection, and insurance products, as well as personal lines type products in those spaces. So home system protection, service line, so like the sewer line from your house to the street, we go ahead and we insure that. And now, most recently, we've really gotten into the cyberspace. And so we're doing a lot of cyber protection for commercial companies to really make sure that they have a good understanding of attack vectors of the bad guys and we're there to protect them on it. Along the way, they've gone ahead and they've hired myself, and we Asif was with the company for a few years before I joined, but we essentially built out a chief data office. And that chief data office was really to take advantage of the opportunities of all of these legacy siloed systems across products. And we went to try to bring everything together and really start into a master data management initiative. That master data management initiative has really paid off in spades. And we're at a point right now where literally next Wednesday, we turn on what we are calling our jet engine factory environment. And so this data is actually being processed. We, as I said, we have over 300 carriers that we partner with. They provide us with over 1,800 files, data files every single month. And then we get claims in every single day. And these are on different systems, separate environments. Our job was to go ahead and bring all that together in an automated function. So with that being said, what we'll do is we'll cover off and we'll talk about essentially what that platform looks like, how we've moved forward into both the self-service and data visualization space. Our real big effort and one of the feathers in our cap is we have an analytic model production deployment framework that we've gone ahead and we've deployed. And again, this is something that gives access to not only our internal employees, but we have the capability of sharing this with our client companies. And then finally, you know, as we've been working on this initiative for upwards of 4 years, we needed to continue to provide value to the company. And so what is it that we did outside of that transformation program to continue to create value with the data that we have available? So this is a bit of an eye chart, but essentially what this established was the data strategy moving forward for the organization. And so we worked with each of the functional areas and each of the product areas to really understand what were their business use cases and understand what was the outcomes that they were looking for, the capabilities from a predictive standpoint, from a modeling standpoint, from a reporting standpoint, and from a visualization standpoint to be able to understand what they needed to help drive their business decisions. And with all that information together, we went through and did a prioritization exercise to really focus on what data set we were going to focus on first. So we picked one of our largest premium concentrations, and we focused on that. We looked at the next, we looked at a product concentration that was not performing well at the time. That was one of the priorities that came out of it. And the intent was to, again, bring all of this information together and start to master it. And so one of the things that we looked at was, from a mastering standpoint, what were going to be the dimensions going forward. For us, because our engineers, it's very important for them to show up at the appropriate location. Location was one of the things that we needed to master. And so we went ahead and we started looking at that across all of our products. So it's one thing for our engineers to show up at that location, but now if the engineer's at that location and we have other products installed there, then there's an opportunity for the engineer to have an interaction with the customer on that level as well. And so again, location was important. Policyholder was important. That was a dimension that we went ahead and mastered on. And again, that helped to feed our CRM initiative across the entire company. And then finally, we also mastered on our policies. With that in mind, that was really this first effort around what's the business capability. With that understanding of what the business needed, then we backed into what was the data that was going to be needed from a high quality and an accuracy standpoint to be mastered and to be available to help with those decision predictions. And then also, what was the technology and infrastructure needed? So it's one thing to go ahead and bring those 1,800 files into an environment that we can go ahead and ensure that we've got high quality accuracy data, addresses, customer names, all that kind of information. But then it was also, what was the technology that our data scientists were going to use? So they needed capabilities as well so that we could get to a point where we could go ahead and then finally deploy our models. So you can see there, there were a number of different things that we had focused on along the way here. As I said, these were the functional areas that we went ahead and we partnered with to really understand what is their strategic initiatives associated around data. And this data strategy framework or this value proposition essentially of acquiring the data, integrating the data, distributing the data, and then we have a special focus on analytics going forward. Those four components really make up the framework of everything we do, whether it's automated with this jet engine initiative, or whether it is outside of that in what we refer to as a tactical data set assembly. And we've been doing some initiatives on that, and I'll touch upon those. Was there anything else you wanted to?
No, it's good.
Yep. So here's the representation of the jet engine, all right? And so before our session started, I had mentioned my background is I was an Air Force officer. I retired as a colonel in the aircraft maintenance and logistics space. One of the things that I was responsible for at one time was the largest jet engine repair facility in the United States. And so jet engines are near and dear to my heart. And it's actually a great analogy for what we're doing with data. And I would also make the connotation that, in your organizations, in your businesses, you're probably doing the same thing, right? And so it's this acquisition layer of, how do we bring all of the data together, right? So we're sucking all the data into that front fan space. The integration layer is really about the compression and the ignition and really trying to, make some power out of that data. The distribution is really how do we get it out to the masses, whether it's the data scientists or the reporters or the business analysts. And then finally, this turbocharge or this afterburner effort around the analytics is really about, that extra boost of having the data scientists be able to utilize, these large data sets, these time series data sets that we have, and these ideas of master data sets that they can utilize to show movement of policies, movement of coverage, and really understand the pricing and the risk accumulation associated with all of our products. So across each one of these areas, to get a little bit deeper into the acquisition, integration, distribution, and analytics space, we just touch upon specifically the types of data that we're bringing together here. So again, we've got this monthly client file intake, which I mentioned, we've got 1,800 of those per month. We've got claims data that comes in daily. And again, that's an entirely separate system. And so the capability for the claims professionals to be able to match that exposure immediately is very important. That's a ton of data that would be given to them and they'd be able to utilize in their claims assessment. The engineering data that gets generated by our inspectors out in the field, again, is something that's generated through another separate system. And it is through the integration of those digital tablets and capability of bringing all that together at the end of the day and incorporating that. That's a really big value add for our efforts as well. And then there's these components here around standardization, right? So we've got our underwriting guidelines. How do we standardize across all of our policies? And making sure that things like occupancy data, using NAICS codes, being able to really understand the lower level of exposures and where our concentrations are. That's very, very important. And then finally, on the bottom here, we have third-party data. And so, all of the vendors that are out there that are creating third-party data, whether it's in the cyberspace, whether it's in the firmographic or demographic space, we can go ahead and we can bring that in and augment it as well periodically. So that's everything kind of coming in the front fan of the jet engine. The integration aspect then is how do we bring it together, right? How do we start matching and merging these things together? And Asif will touch on that a little bit more on another slide. The master data management is probably the most important piece of what we've really focused on here. And again, we've made it such that not only can we master on the elements that we've already defined through our dimensional model, but also in looking at all the way down to the object level of the types of equipment that are out in the field. So if we knew what the make, model, and serial number was of the specific item that's out in the field, then again, that gives us a much broader understanding of where is that also distributed in other areas if we were to find something wrong with an inspection. So very, very important. Data governance is our continuous improvement initiative of how are we going to continue to bring our data to be the highest level of accuracy and timeliness, quality. All those things come together through our data governance initiative. And it really is, it's a continuous improvement effort. There's always going to be opportunities to improve the data. The question is, how do you prioritize it? And really that's probably one of the bigger challenges there. On the distribution side, we look at it twofold. We look at the pipe that we send to the analytics team, the data scientists, and then we've got a separate pipe that essentially is being delivered through reports. What we're looking to do is to essentially build out it was referred to yesterday during the Domo presentation, but they were using the term data athletes, kind of the folks that are in between, that are using the low code, no code type tools to be able to generate data insights on their own. And again, we're looking to continue to develop opportunities there, and we've got some tools that we've looked at and are implementing there. And then, some of the analytics initiatives we'll hit upon specifically to give you a little bit more flavor as to what are the components of that. Any questions on this? I mean, we've got a small enough group here that if you guys got questions along the way, please, chime in.
Any question from online at this point of time?
No, at this time.
Okay.
Okay. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn it over to Asif.
Good morning. So I'll just go a little bit more details on the the data strategy part. Just to build what Louis kind of articulated the vision. We really worked hard on the value proposition. What exactly this project is going to deliver for business, because that was the most important to sell to the customer, to our partners, saying that, okay, this is a big investment. We are going to do a lot of big projects here, but how is it going to change what we are doing today? How it's going to add value to that? So we kind of really did a very detailed analysis. We talked to the customer. We talked to almost all the important business leaders and the segment leaders, the product managers, and wanted to see what data can do it for them, and basically quantified the value of each of those tasks and what they can do it today, what they are doing it today, and if they get a better data in real time in automated fashion, then what they can do. Because we wanted to see the end state. Before we even started our journey, we wanted to paint the picture of the end state and saying that, hey, we are going to deliver this thing, this will have these features, and then what, And that's where I'll just kind of tell one more interesting lessons from our journey, because this project took more than 4 years and quite a lot of big investments, and there are ups and downs in our process. But in the very beginning of the process, this exercise, what we did, was really helped us to succeed and actually end the project with success. Because in the middle, there are always some questions, it's like, hey, it's taking a long time, is it really valuable? But because we articulated our, the business value from the very beginning, and also in a very continuous basis, that helped us to kind of pass through the journey and the difficulties of the journey. We'll go through the few of the details. If you see that, again, these are very, very insurance specific, and also this is like a sample. But what we believe, this really helped us. And if you are really doing a very large data and analytics transformation program, this kind of exercise is extremely important for the success of the program. Going through each line by line, I'll go through the few of those things. If you guys are familiar with the P&C industry, the building a loss cost model is kind of standard things to do for any P&C carrier, correct? They build their pricing model. Actuaries are building their pricing model before this data and analytics even become cool, correct? They are doing for hundreds of years. Before they used to do it in Excel, So data is key to the insurance companies. There's nothing new, But the things that they do for pricing model today, it's different than what they used to do it 50 years back, using Excel and just a pivot table. So we have the model. It's not that all the insurance companies have the model, but what we did not have, that the high quality data set that is readily available to build a model. Building the model used to take more than a year, sometimes 2 years, and the model used to get old, and again, what Louis, put it in the picture in the AIDA things, if you see that, we are also exploring a lot of third-party data, and that itself is, evaluation of third-party data and how those third-party data fits into those use cases. It's another exercise by itself, and this is not part of the program per se. What we do not do is like integrate all third-party data, instantly. This project was more the core functionality, as Louis mentioned, the policies, exposures, our engineering data, our products, customers data, our contract data, all kind of mixed together, and at the end, that what we delivered is something what we call decision-ready data, and decision-ready data is up to date almost in a real-time basis. It's a daily basis. For our use cases, we really didn't need, minute-by-minute update. No one really. And again, those are the things that you guys need to evaluate if you are trying to do, because not all use cases are same. Sometimes in the previous thing, things I was hearing that some people need really real-time, update of the data, and that costs money, correct? The real time doesn't come free. And what are you going to do if you get it to real time? And our business would say, nothing. Okay, I don't care, what is happening now. If you give me, if data is really refreshed in a monthly basis, I'm good. I don't need more than that because I cannot react to it. Okay, because in my use cases or in our company's use cases, we are working through our reinsurance partners, our agents, and as insurance is a long tail, long cycle thing, and you cannot, and also it's very regulated. At least in US, it's extremely regulated, so you cannot change the price like in UK, in other places where, you could change the price based on, demand or based on here. It goes through very regulated. So again, those are some of those things that, any project of this kind or this size should evaluate, make sure that we balance the not just build something fancy just for the sake of building something fancy. It's also meeting the use cases. So model accuracy improvement was one of our biggest, saying that, hey, if the models are refreshed on a, regular basis with the decision-ready data, how much benefit. And again, there is no real science behind. I don't think there is any real science saying that you can come up with, yes, the improvement will be X dollar or $5 million. There's a lot of hard work, a lot of homework, a lot of discussions. But at the end of the day, we're able to put some numbers, and we continuously validate those numbers on a timely basis. Another thing was we're doing like the second one was the operational efficiency. I'm going to take a little bit more time on this slide because this is really the core of what we did from a business value proposition perspective, and it's put in one slide, but a lot of discussion and a continuous discussion and engagement with the business partners. What we were doing was like a lot of manual reports, correct? The data was not there, and you were manually stitching together data. We didn't have an MDM or master data management things, but business was running, creating the model-ready data, stitching together manually, and it was taking quite a lot of time. We were engaging our consultants, and they were and it was not coming cheap. So we kind of put together, how much we could save. But again, this project was not driven really to save or cost saving. It was more growth driven. What could we do, how the business could grow, if we really have a real-time update of the data. The third one is the location risk score. This is one of the important things that what Luis mentioned in the AIDA framework, acquisition to the distribution, analytics and distribution. And we are building the model, but as you all know that deploying those models in production is a challenge, correct? It's a challenge for every company that I know of. I've worked for a few other companies as well. And because you build a model, the best model that you could do, but then taking those models into the production, into the IT system, it's a challenge by itself. And you have to really understand your landscape. And we were doing using SAS, Excel, many other things. Here we moved completely to the cloud. So from data ingestion to delivery of machine learning model through API, and creating data again through that process and ingesting that data back through our data ingestion process. The entire ecosystem was part of our project, and we're very, very successful in that. So this location risk score is another interesting thing because, as Luis mentioned, we have around 300 insurance carriers, the big insurance carriers, and we have 12 million unique location, commercial location that we have some experience doing business with. That's almost 60% or 50 to 60% of the entire US commercial market. That's quite a lot of big data, and the history around it. So we build what we call a location risk score, an intelligence about each location. And this is primarily built based on our equipment breakdown experience, saying that, hey, but the idea was that if the companies are not taking care of the equipments, they're lousy in taking care of the properties as well. So there are a lot of correlation that what we found with this equipment, risk with their property risk. So a lot of other insurance carrier found it very valuable because what they saw it, another third-party data elements that is helping them to predict property loss as well. And we built it based on equipment breakdown loss, but that is helping to predict the property loss. It's again, it's one of the data elements that their property model, and those things we are delivering in real time through API. And that was one of the really successful thing that we did. This machine learning model, we put it in the Azure container, we built it through their DevOps pipeline. So we now have a very nice process where we could deploy models now in, deploying the model doesn't take time. It's 1 or 2 weeks time to kind of do the due diligence of, business acceptance of the model. It's almost real time. Again, this model deployment area is changing every day. This is not because, it was DevOps, now it's MLOps, and there are a lot of tools and, things are coming that you could take advantage of. But the native cloud tools are good enough. That's what we kind of deployed, in the Azure cloud, in the Kubernetes cluster, and through the API. And we, there is a pipeline where our data scientists are building the model, and you can push those models in real time to the container, and those containers are getting access through the API and delivering it to the customer. Again, when I started my analytics journey, I've been working with the analytics sectors for more than 24 years now. And it was way different. It's like real-time delivery of machine learning models is we couldn't even think of. It's like if you could just run a model, score a data in a week, that would have been called success. Now people's expectations are completely different. So there's another was the profile process. So another thing that what we do is we get a lot of client companies sends us their portfolio and saying that, hey, can you give us the price? And in the past, what we couldn't see is that if we have seen those locations or customers from other engagement, because it was not that MDM, we didn't have an MDM. So we have 12 million locations, that's 2/3 of the market share, and that's a big, correct, 12 million, the entire commercial property market. But when a new client company were coming to us and saying that, hey, can you give us a quote? They are giving 200,000 location. We couldn't connect those 200,000 location to our 12 million databases and saying that, hey, this 200,000 that you're asking, we have seen 150,000 of it, and these 10,000 locations had high losses. They're lousy business. You don't want to write too much. And we didn't have that insight. So we'll give them average price, and average price is average. That's not really. So through this process, we are, in real time checking if we have those locations from other engagements, from other channels. And one of the interesting stories that our business leaders tell that, because we do inspection as well. And because we never really did the mastering things and we didn't know our customers or locations that well, we even went for inspections that was not belongs to us, because we couldn't identify. And again, things happen like that because we are a big organization, but the data quality issue, this underlying the data quality issue. So these are, again, the use cases, and it's very important to quantify and seeing that with the better data, with a better process, with better delivery, how much value, because many times we just do projects for the sake of having new fancy technology, okay? And the project fails after, because especially in this kind of a big project, like a 4 or 5 years project would fail because it cannot deliver the business value, and after 2 years or 1 year of spending a few millions dollars, the company, the business people would ask, like, what the heck these guys are doing? Like, yeah, a lot of fancy stuff, but I don't need that. So Luis, do you want to add on that thing?
Yeah, what I would emphasize on this, and I think, again, Asif's hit on a couple of the specific ones that were very important for us. When you think back to the jet engine, okay, so you've got the acquisition, integration, distribution, and analytics. These are really the list of the analytics. These were the specialized components. And because these are more operational type models, we're not doing a one-time data grab to try to bring everything together and optimize one data set to hand over to the data scientists. This is an operational environment where these are constantly being refreshed. And because of that, we were able to take advantage of an opportunity to retire mainframe systems as well. The IT architecture team has seen the capability and the robustness of what we built in this jet engine capability, that now operationally it's able to replace some of the other components of our architecture within our IT environment. And so again, these are benefits that we weren't even planning on initially, but because we had built this so robustly, it's fit nicely into our IT architecture.
Yeah, I'll just hit in the last one, the data monetization, because that's something is very core to Luis's heart as well, because a lot of times what we were trying to build is like just to support our business. And what we were always thinking about, how could we kind of build something that we could monetize? And this is work in progress, but we are really continuously evaluating that how could we, and location risk score, and one of the examples that we'll give at the end, what we call policy attrition network. Again, some of those examples are the efforts to kind of monetize our data. It's not just the insurance kind of things, but also how could we monetize the massive amount of data that we have. So this is kind of a more how we delivered that, how we delivered the business use cases that we call our journey from black data to gold data. And gold data is, this really is a decision-ready data. And if you see at the end, it's the gold data, and how do you kind of use that gold data to score those analytics models, machine learning models in real time. We call it AMD framework, or our analytics model deployment framework. And this decision, again, we work backward, saying that how the gold data would look like. Okay, how is it going to do help our data science team? How is it going to help our product managers? Or we didn't build anything that they didn't ask for. Again, this is a very, very business-driven program, and we kind of went from there. So we went. The gold was the final thing. So we did a quick POC at the very beginning of the program, and saying that how the gold data would look like without going through this black, white, this through a formal data management process. We kind of stitched together, manually, the foundation of the gold data, and said that, hey, this is what it will look like, and do you guys need this one? And then they say, yes, just give me that in real time, just give me that. And so we, from the day one, when we were working with our IT friends, they know what that needs to be delivered. There was never a question on, is really business need that, because business has already approved that structure of the gold data and how they're going to consume that gold data. So yes.
Can you talk about the organizational structure and roles that were involved in establishing these standards and frameworks specifically?
Yeah, well, we can go through that. So We have what you call CDO office, Lewis's office, and we have around 22 people in the CDO office, and then we have a data management, IT data management, who takes care of the technology, the production support. But again, because we are really a business-driven data organization, if someone comes to me with a production problem, yeah, we take care of that, but we hand it over to our IT friends, to take care of, hey, if this column is not populated, normally that's an IT problem. That's not an our group's problem, but we work with them, make sure our customers, And then we have data stewards in each functional area. The data stewards really, we work closely with the data stewards and the business. Like data stewards really takes care of what we call delivering this gold data and embedding with the business functional areas, because they are the one who really are kind of taking those things and explaining. Again, this is a collaboration effort. This is a journey. This is still needs to be improved and matured.
And we've had an implementation partner that's helped support us from a development standpoint. And one of the decisions that we made very early on is that we wanted to go with a single platform that would take us from black all the way through gold. And so we signed up with a single software vendor that could do all of that through the MDM space. And we ended up choosing one of the top tier folks over in the Gartner, top quadrant, to work alongside us with that. One of the challenges that we've had, though, because it's taken us 4 years, is because we kind of hit the software vendor in a roadmap issue where they were moving to a SaaS environment. And so we initially established a private cloud, and now we're looking to migrate to the SaaS. And similarly, in our implementation partner, because of COVID, we had some challenges with retention and COVID issues, and that also helped to extend this. I would, in a perfect world, no COVID existing, this probably would have been maybe a 2-year deployment. But it's just over 4 years now. And as I said, next week is, we turn the key on the jet engine. So we're really excited about where we are. It's just taken us longer than what we had originally anticipated.
Yeah, which should have taken 2 years or 2.5 years. Now it's 4 years journey. So,
just a follow-up question to this, just for the buying process. Yesterday, a CDO mentioned that they report up to the CIO, and I'm curious, when you purchase a technology and implement it, is the budget coming primarily or entirely from the CDO office, or do you capture budget from other business units that are seeing value from this?
So we have an IT budget that me and the CIO are peers, and so we work together to distribute how that budget's going to be spent through the year. The good thing is that we both report to the COO, and the COO essentially is the arbitrator of all things where they're going to be spent in the IT space. And so, again, what started out as a 2.5-year journey has a price tag. What becomes a 4+ year journey has a bigger price tag, right? And so each time we had to go back and ask, hey, this is a problem that we've experienced, we need to extend. The guiding principle, and Asif already pointed to this earlier on, was that business value page, right? And what we were promising from a standpoint of the growth capabilities for the company going forward. And that was always hey, we're still under our ROI, right? And that really was, when you go ahead and you plug in all the numbers there, we went ahead and masked them for the purpose of the presentation. But when you go ahead and you mask, all the value that's created from each one of those, potentially just from a percentage of a percentage point movement in a model, it's pretty extravagant in a dollar figure standpoint. And so when we go ahead and we extrapolate that out to the total investment, we're still very, very much in the green.
Even after this 1.5-year extension of the program, because of that, our ROI and the business really never questioned the value of it. They just kind of said that, get it done. I need it yesterday, and they're waiting for it. So
let's. Another question?
Yeah, can you talk about how many business units you're enabling and how many use cases you're supporting after this has been established? Yeah.
So there are a number of models that Asif had highlighted there, and there's more being developed all the time. The challenge is what data is available. And it kind of comes back to the idea of, I'll be very frank with you, in a lot of cases, the business just doesn't know what it doesn't know. And so, unless you have a data scientist who's very focused on this industry, you don't, or someone that's coming from another company that's experienced some of these things, it's very hard to, there have been a number of conversations in other sessions, but the culture change, of really trying to get people to think differently around, well, no, you don't have to do that with the data anymore, you can do it this way. Or, no, we've got this additional data set that we could go ahead and leverage into your thinking or into your accumulation risk model, and now you can be even more granular. And it's that education and that culture shift that is a continual ongoing process. And we're very fortunate in that we've got a very open-minded set of individuals that are involved in this. You always bump up against that frozen center, right, of the folks that are just kind of waiting to see what happens. But on our executive committee, they're very, very progressive.
Yeah, I'll just go quickly. I'm not going to talk too much on this. This is a kind of MDM, core of MDM. Everybody knows about one of the use cases that we're talking about, that inspection activities, and we were sending our inspectors to the wrong places, and doing an MDM was really critical. And also one of the challenges that we had was the claims to policy joining, because our exposure data was coming from our partner companies, and that quality was bad. And the claims we do settle ourselves, so we have a very high quality claims data, and matching claims to policies were traditional insurance companies wouldn't have any problem, and they wouldn't even say that this is even a business problem, because it's in the same system and they could easily match. And if we could match our 60% of our claims to our exposure data, we would have been happy in the past. And that was a big benefit from this. After we did this implementation in MDM, we are now in 90% of claims we could match with our exposure data. And that was a big improvement, huge improvement from our business value perspective. And MDM helped on that. So MDM, and this slide also, so this is like a matching on top of, what we call, MDM, and then there are business rules after MDM that helps. So MDM alone was not, able to deliver that 90+% of that, claims to policy matching. We had to do some more business rules on top of the MDM to get to that. And I was listening to the MDM journey. There's an augmented AI-based MDM, and then there are rule-based. We didn't use the AI-based yet, but that would be our kind of the next challenge, because that time when we started this journey, the AI-based MDM, that it was not really matured enough to invest, and our problem didn't justify that kind of investment. So with that, we'll go to some of the...
Step back for just one second. And I wanted to just emphasize the differences between the two, because in an ongoing space, right, it's one thing to do it in that software platform end to end and use the mastering tools that are embedded there. But because we still have to provide value to the organization outside of this 4-year journey, right, we still had to be able to do matching capability. And so we're still using, AI type tools to go ahead and bring together matching in products that aren't embedded in that operational environment yet. And so we'll touch upon that in just a moment, but I wanted to emphasize that the matching is something that we've always been able to do. It's that mastering that's, again, adding that additional value that the company is willing to pay for.
You want to go quickly on some of the visualization?
Yeah, and so a big piece going forward now is, well, what do you do with the data, right? So we get to that distribution layer, and we get to, what is it that the analytics team, the data science team is able to create. But we want to be able to, deal with our functional partners and be able to give them something more than what they have today. And so, by using tools, visualization tools, and presenting them essentially Excel spreadsheets in a way that they can now work dynamically with them, has just been another big breath of fresh air for the organization. They're looking at things differently. They're asking questions, which is really what we're looking to drive through all of this cultural shift, and to get them more comfortable with the data. as I had mentioned earlier, you kind of have the report consumers on the bottom, you've got your data scientists on the top. It's that middle layer of folks that we really want to start to escalate their capabilities, bring them closer to the data scientists so that they're working in a visualization space, but they're starting to do some kind of hypothesis testing where they are experts on the business side. They can go ahead and derive, hey, what's this telling me in the data, and then they can convey that to the data scientists to do the deeper dive.
Yeah, so it's a combination of, there's just a few sample dashboards, but our big focus on self-service. And we are using some kind of more AI-based tool to do self-service of searching the data. The gold data that we created, now how the business can take the advantage of it. So some of those dashboards are automatically getting created, but they used to do it in Excel. But this dashboard is not really the big one. I think the self-service of the gold data that we created, I would think that's probably the big value addition for our business.
And so one of the tools that we've been able to provide to them is, you would be able to pick two of these bubbles and ask for a comparison specifically around what's driving the difference between these two bubbles. And so it goes in and it does the data insights analysis, standard deviation, variability issues, and comes back with what's driving the differences. And that way, again, it gives insight to those folks in the middle as to what's creating that difference. And again, that's like sunshine shining on them for the first time. And so we're making really good progress in that space as well.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. So we had, we had a loss ratio change from last quarter to this quarter, and it was very difficult for the business people to kind of understand why did the loss ratio change so much in the last quarter to this quarter. And they would ask data scientists, and they will kind of take 1 month and do the analysis. Now some of those self-service tools can do it instantly, and they can just compare those two things. And again, after they do the basic analysis, they still go to the data scientist, but that's something that already they can get some insights in real time. And then if they find something interesting, then they go to the data scientist to kind of prove that thing and hypothesis testing more of that. So it was really a interesting thing. So this is we're talking about that model deployment API. So here we're really very successful on that topic. Where we are delivering our location risk score, through our API within 4 or 5 seconds. And within that 4 or 5 seconds, we are not only running a machine learning model like a deep neural net model, but also combining 6 or 7 third-party data, with our internal data in real time within 5 seconds. So it's actually through API, it's connecting to credit data, or it's connecting to your property data. It's grabbing those things, combining all of those things, preparing those things. We are standardizing the address, joining with this data, weather. We are joining with census data. We're joining with the property data. So all those getting combined, and executing the machine learning model. Even before I started this program, I didn't think that we will deliver within 5 seconds, because we used to deliver in 5 hours. Now this LRS API and this API, the customers can actually take it, run it from their side, and call this API and get this result, and within 5 seconds they get the score for that particular location. So again, if you have any detailed question, we'll be happy to answer on the architecture side of that. So this is the more on the bigger insights of how we develop that location risk score, more the machine learning part of it, building the model part of it. So there are a lot of unique data. As I said, that we have 12 million experience, 12 million location from our US commercial businesses that we have databases in the historical data. So this location risk score was built on that 12 million experience, from our different experience with different customer. And then we appended a lot of those third-party data, but the core of those things are a lot of our engineering inspection data, because what we do is the inspection of those properties for the equipments. That was unique in the insurance sector, because as you know, nowadays they don't go to inspect the properties, correct? especially the commercial properties end. So those all combine together, and these are some of those insights that business is getting value out of this. Again, this is at the end, analytics and consumption layer, but as I said, it's very important from a value proposition perspective to articulate these things in the very beginning, and evaluate this in a periodic manner with the business saying that, hey, is this still valid while the program is going on, and IT is helping us to integrate those thousands of files. And again, there's a massive challenge in the program because this integration of what Luis says, that 1,800 files that we get it today, we process it through a mainframe system today. So things were written in COBOL and no one had any documentation of those things. So mining those business rules from those mainframe system itself was a big challenge. But those are more technicalities of it, an IT part of it, and we really want to focus on the business side of it. Luis, do you want to go to the?
Yeah, and so a couple of things that he mentioned that I know I mentioned, but I don't know that, again, mean that much to you guys. The 1,800 files that we're talking about, they're both structured and unstructured. So again, part of this automation effort was a big piece of trying to decipher how are we going to bring all that unstructured data into this environment. So that was one thing. The other thing is that, and again, I don't know that we made this perfectly clear, but our model is really a B2B2C, okay? We're the first B, the 300 carriers are the second B, and then the 12 million locations are the C. And this effort, all right, essentially was our God's eye view effort, in that because we see these 12 million customers and we see them move every year potentially from a different carrier to a different product to a different level of limits, we see all that information every single year when their policies get renewed. And some go away, and some come back, and some are here for the first time, and some we don't see for many years. But we have this God's eye view, essentially, of where are all these customers moving to, when are they moving, how frequently are they moving, what are the influences of their moving. So did someone change a product? Is there an agent or a broker involved that maybe makes it a B to B to B to C? All right, and so again, because of this challenge, because we sit on top of the mountain, we can look down and we can see all this movement. And this goes back to the modernization piece that Asif spoke about earlier, the benchmarking capability where we can see how maybe one carrier is performing differently than another. And this whole idea of this customer migration or this God's eye view gives us this level of insight where we could be working with our client carriers to let them understand a little bit better as to how they're performing. So a lot of opportunity here, and again, this is a huge value back to the carriers.
Yeah, this was very interesting because in the insurance space, like even the big carriers, they didn't know where the customers are going, But say suppose from one carrier it went to a different carrier, but because we write equipment breakdown to almost all of those carriers, they came back to us, through just, and in the past, we couldn't connect those two things. Like if I came through, insurance company A, and after 1 year I canceled with insurance company A when I went to the insurance company B and came back again, there was no way for us to know because there was no unique key.
There could be different pricing associated with that movement, and we wouldn't even really know that it was the same customer.
Yeah, and even through a different channel.
Yeah.
Like we also write few of our customers through our direct channel, a very small number. And in the past, there was no real ability, and it happened that we kicked some of our customers out from our transactional business, our direct business, because they were not profitable, and we didn't want to take that kind of risk. But they went through another channel and came back to us anyway with lower premium. We kicked them out. We didn't even want to accept higher premium and retain that risk, but the 12 million businesses coming through different channels. Keeping track of all of those things was really a challenge. And doing that MDM, or mastering of all those locations and customers, and identifying some of those very early on, really was a kind of a very helpful things for business. With that, we only have 5 minutes if any questions.
And so just I wanted to touch on one last topic. It doesn't pertain to this page, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Because this is an ongoing, expensive investment, right?
Yeah.
With a picture painted at the end of this rainbow that we're going to get to with all these different kinds of models and capabilities, we needed to keep the business in general motivated by what we were doing. And so one of the initiatives that we did also put upon, and this I think goes back to the organizational structure question earlier, is that Asif also supervises our team of data engineers. And so what these guys and gals do is that they're able to pull together the data sets for the analytics team, for the data scientists, for our reports, to give insight along the way as questions come up from the business. So again, we're not just this monster project in the corner happening and we'll be back in a couple of years. We were delivering value every step of the way so that as questions continually came up from the business, we had these data engineers at our fingertips to be able to go ahead and pull together the data sets necessary for business decision making. And I can't emphasize that enough, that running that in parallel with this project has probably been one of the biggest values that we've been able to continue to keep at the forefront of the business.
Yeah, business wouldn't wait for 3 years to deliver the value.
Yeah.
They have some problems that needs to be solved today. So how we kind of deliver, some of those tactical issues, today was probably one of the another criteria that saved our program, saying that, okay, while we are delivering this long-term vision, of a much better data platform, we also needed to do something. And there we utilize a lot of those ad hoc, like Python programming and other, our data engineers were savvy enough to kind of pull together some of those visions manually. It takes time, but it gives you time to build this, while the business can still deliver some of those business values.
So based on this new intelligence, the holistic intelligence that you now have, are you planning to personalize customer experience and make recommendations and so on? Are there new experiences you're planning to?
We work directly with the carriers. Again, so we're that B2B component. We rarely get an opportunity to speak to the customer, the policyholder, unless there's a claim. And then we would handle that directly. And so because of that, it's really the partnership with the carriers and what value we're creating for them. And so a lot of what you saw from that value proposition statement, those were internal focused models that are focused on pricing and risk accumulation and all that, but they're also components that we could share with our clients to add additional value. The whole idea is that they're giving us those 1,800 files every single month. What we're looking to do is what value can we give them back? And that's a big value proposition component as well too, because the data that they give us is not of high quality for the most part. And so to have a negotiation or a capability to leverage something in return would help them to give us some better data up front. Yeah. With that, if there are any questions?
Thank you for sharing your journey so far. I'm curious, can you talk a little bit about the efforts you made to attract and retain talent in the data space at the company?
So we've got a couple of different venues. So number one, and I was going to mention it at the end here, we were very, very fortunate in that our company is a very deep company from a experience level. We have, and I'll say that a different way, we have our average tenure at our company is probably somewhere between 15 and 20 years, okay, for the people that work in the company. In the data space, we have people that have been with the company over 30 years. And so one of the things that we did early on is we went out and we kind of handpicked who from that data world in the company could we bring into our organization to help educate our team. And then the other initiative, which Asif's been really cheerleading, is we've been working very closely with intern programs for a number of our master's programs in the area. So we have a really good partnership with UConn, and they have an analytics science, a business intelligence and science analytics program. We bring them in as interns They learn our company and our culture, we learn about them. If there's a marriage, we continue on and we offer them full-time opportunity. If not, then they go their way and we go our way. But we've been very, very successful in that space of recruiting from the local colleges. And the folks that are going through those master's programs have some experience as well coming into the master's program. So we're not hiring many undergrads, direct out. It's more the folks that have a level of experience and really understand the data engineering space. The challenge that I will say is that most data engineers want to become a data scientist, right? And so the challenge is how do you keep them motivated to stay a data engineer so that they're creating value? Because most data scientists will tell you it takes 2, 3, 4, 5 years with a company before they really feel comfortable with the data in that company and what they're doing. So this is an opportunity I see as these junior data scientists to really get close and embed with the data before they graduate on to bigger roles.
I would like to thank the attendees for joining us for this session, and a round of applause to our speakers.
Thank you.